Alright, YouTube, welcome back. My name is Chris, and this is going to be part 3 of my little Yu-Gi-Oh! Explanation channel. So today we're going to be going over the different types of trap cards, and maybe get into some one-on-one, well, not one-on-one, but one-person battling, so I can explain the format, how, it lines up on the field, how cards are used, explain different paces of the game. So for right now, let's start off with let's go with the normal trap cards. So there are 3 cards. There are trap cards, continuous traps, and counter traps. Counter traps, of course, can be activated after a trap has been activated. So we'll do the counter traps first. So counter traps, hold on, as you can see, have the arrow, kind of like a whatever. Anyway, it's a quick or counter trap, if you want to call it that. We have Dark Bribe here, and also Spell Shield type 8. They both have way different effects, so I wanted to show these particularly because this one has multiple effects that you can activate depending on the situation. So this you can activate after a trap or a magic card has been activated, and you can select one select and activate one of the following effects. This one says to negate the activation of the effect of a spell card that targets one monster on the field, destroy that spell card. Or you can send one spell card from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation of the effect of a spell card and destroy it. So this trap card is mainly for destroying spell cards. Then you have a counter trap like Dark Bribe, which, as it says, when an opponent's spell or trap card is activated, your opponent draws 1 card. Also, negate the spell or trap activation, and if you do, destroy it. So you're pretty much destroying your opponent's spell or trap card, depending on what they activate. And on top of that, you are also able to draw. The opponent also gets to draw a card, though. So that's kind of the downfall. You get to destroy it, but they get to draw a card. So you kind of have to, kind of weigh your options there. So the next ones, like I said, we're going to do normal trap cards. On the bottom row, for example, you can see Double Passé and Force Ceasefire. Double Passé is, of course, from the GX series. So normal trap cards are just normal trap cards. Double Passé is actually one of my favorite trap cards that are used in the GX anime. So this one is a trap card for when an opponent's monster declares an attack on a face-up attack position monster that you control. Make your opponent's attack a direct attack instead, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the target you control. Also, that monster you control can attack your opponent directly during your next turn. So this is actually pretty good. It's kind of like a counter trap. I don't know. So pretty much, if your opponent is attacking you, you can choose to either have it inflict direct damage to your life points or do battle with your monster, and then of course whatever damage you take. This one allows you to decide that, and if you decide to make it a direct attack, your opponent gets dealt damage equal to the attack of the monster that you control. Also, that monster you control can attack your opponent directly during your next turn. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. For Ceasefire this one is a discard to activate. So you would have to discard 1 card from your hand. No trap cards can be activated until the end phase of this turn. So pretty much until the end of the turn, no trap cards can be activated. So again, these are normal traps. Next, we have continuous traps, such as Greed and Embodiment of Apopus, which Shout out to Battle City Tournament that's going on TV right now on my screen. Because Embodiment of Popius is used in Odeon's deck. This is a continuous trap. Again, it's kind of like a continuous spell card. It has the infinity sign next to the title. This one, during either player's main phase, which is your first phase, special summon this card as a normal monster. So this would be, face down on the field, and at the beginning of the main phase, you can activate it. And instead of it being a trap card, it would go to the front line and become a monster. In face-up attack position, it'll be Earth, level 4, with attack of 1600, defense of 1800. This card is also a trap card. So if your opponent has a magic card or a spell card such as Harpy's Feather Duster or Twister, or any card that gets rid of trap cards, you could use on this card, or you can attack it as a monster with your own monster. Greed, again, is a continuous trap. Each time a player draws a card because of a card effect, he or she takes 500 points of damage during the end phase for each card drawn by this card effect. So if, say, like your opponent, uses an effect to draw more cards like Pot of Greed, or I forget the other one. Graceful Charity, stuff like that. They would take 500 points of damage for each card, so that would be either 1,000 or 1,500 or even 500. So these are continuous trap cards. So now that we've gone over the basics of the cards, we have your monster cards, whether they're normal monsters or effect monsters, which are monsters that have effects, or ritual or fusion monsters. Now again, this series is only going to cover the basic Yu-Gi-Oh generation, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh or Yu-Gi-Oh GX. Both of them have ritual and fusion type monsters, so it's not really hard to kind of like stay in line. Once we get to the later episodes, when we start talking about synchro monsters, and then later on to my favorite, which is XCs, then we'll start getting into even more detail with that. So for right now, I'm trying to think. The Spirit of Millennium Ring is confronting Merrick after his loss. Well, not after his loss, but he's already lost. As I was saying in the previous episode, Yu-Gi-Oh! Through 4Kids TV was censored a lot. So in this one scene, Merrick has finally come to try to finish off Odeon, and Bakura steps in along with the good side of Merrick, because they have now teamed up. But before that, Merrick, tries to detach his Millennium Rod, and it looks like he's just holding his fist out over his chest, but really there's supposed to be the other piece of his Millennium Rod, but the inside or the end of the Millennium Rod actually has a dagger inside, so like he's supposed to be like holding like a dagger over him. But of course 4Kids TV's like, no, we can't promote that, because again, Yu-Gi-Oh was not supposed to be based on a card game, or at least specifically a card game. But anyway, so now that we've gone over spells, which again, we have the normal spells, the equip spells, the ritual spells, the field spells, continuous spells, and the quick play spells. Then we have the trap cards with the continuous, regular, or normal traps, and counter traps. So I have 2 decks set up already. They have the basic cards in them. One is going to be a Harpy Lady deck, which is, of course, my Valentine's deck. And we also have the Dark Magician deck, which is also, of course, Yugi's deck. Now, I think I do have majority of all of the cards that Yugi actually uses, let alone Yami. But this card deck is kind of like a mix of my spares, just so I can keep this plain and simple, because all my other cards are actually in their actual respective decks, and I don't really want to have to try to explain Synchro and XCs, because I do have some of those with my basic or first generation Yu-Gi-Oh decks. So I'm going to clean up these trap cards. All right. Okay, so we went over the counter traps, went over the continuous traps, and then we have the force. Okay, so all right, so we went over those. All right, so let's. Now this is gonna look a little wacky and amateurish, but I'm gonna semi go back and forth. For this example, I'm going to have the Dark Magician deck be the deck that we use. So, well, one that I'll show you guys. And the opponent's deck will be, of course, the Harpy Lady deck. So again, let's get rid of these so we don't get confused. Trying to figure out where to put this so it's not so damn confusing. I think you went there. I think. Okay. Alright, so you'll have an open field. And aside from these cards, we don't need these. Oh, there's also other cards, but we'll get into them once. Like, there's a magic card or spell card called Scapegoats or anything like that. You actually have token cards, so I'll show you. There's Karibo, you have the Scapegoat Lamb tokens, or Stray Lamb tokens. So again, there's Karibos, you have, I forget who this is, but it's an actual card. And we have these little guys, and then we have the Stray Lambs. So these are all token cards that you can get. You can always look them up on Amazon. They always have them. And it's pretty much like one of those things where, like, if you are required to summon, like, tokens or, like, you know, little fake decoy cards for your monster effects or card effects, these are the cards that you would use. They're Yu-Gi-Oh! Licensed. They're Yu-Gi-Oh! Made. And you can get them all. Here's the, okay, cool. Alright, so deck goes on bottom right corner. Okay? Generally, you're going to have 5 spaces. I wonder if I have... Do I still have a mat? I wonder if I still... Just give me one moment. I want to see if I still have a mat. Because I feel like at one point I did. So... This is why I have the Pendulum cards, because I bought the Legendary Dragon deck. So that's kind of why. I love the box, but that's why I have, you know, the freaking Pendulum monsters and shit. So craft your own Dueling Legend. So you have the Legendary Dragons of Atlantis deck, the Cyber Dragon deck, and the Dimensional Dragons deck, which of course is the Pendulum. So again, you can Duel Links. I definitely recommend Duel Links. One of my favorites I'm on. I play all the time along with Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. They are my 2 main games that I always play daily. The KC tournament is going on right now, and I've just become level 6 so that I can participate in the second stage of the tournament online. It's definitely a game to play if you're into it. It's a little bit shortened because the frames, you only have 3 spaces instead of 5. So it's kind of like a little bit, you know, you can only have so many cards in your deck. Home rules, you can have as many cards in your deck as you want. Basic tournament rules is anywhere between 40 and 60 cards. And for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, it's anywhere between 20 and 30, which is, you know, a little harsh. But, you know, again, you only have 3 spaces. So, as you can see, I'm going to try to see where... Okay, so... trying to look here. Alright, cool. Okay, so now that's where the deck goes on your bottom right. Okay, so let me get started over here. So what you have is you have your, well, what I forgot to say was I don't have a mat. I thought I did. I guess I don't. But you have your deck. You have, okay, so you have your deck. You have your graveyard. You have your extra deck, which has your fusion, synchro, XDs, monsters, all that good jazz. And then you have field spells. So it's always these 4 spaces on the end. And then in between you have 5 spaces for your trap cards, and then 5 spaces for your monster cards. So, beginning of the game, I like to decide by kind of like roulette. It's me and my friend's own little version of it. It depends on what card you have. So, I think it was, if I'm remembering this correctly, magic destroys traps, traps destroy monsters, monsters are immune to magic. So, bottom card of my deck is a magic card. Or spell card. Sorry, I'm still used to saying magic. Bottom deck card of this is a monster card. So, naturally, we're going to go first. First draw, you draw 5 cards. Person who goes first will draw a card on his first turn. So since it is not our opponent's turn, it is ours. Let us see how this goes. Alright, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our drawn cards. So now we are on our draw phase, which now we have drawn. Okay, so now while we are waiting, this is main phase 1. This is what is going to be considered main phase 1. So now let's see, we have a Dark Magician of Chaos, which is a high ranked level card, which means I'll need 2 or more sacrifices, or as its effect during the end phase of this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can target 1 spell card. Okay, so this is an effect, so we're going to wait on that. Legend of the Heart has to do with legendary card that I have, so we're not going to get to that just now. We have a level 1, a level 4, and a level 4, and a trap card, right? Trap card. You can only activate this card when an effect of drawing cards is activated. Both players see the cards drawn by the effect and send them all to the graveyard. So even if we also have to draw cards, then we also have to destroy them. But if it's just them, then they destroy it. So we're going to place this face down on the field to use. You cannot use traps from your hand unless effects allow you to do so. But until then, trap cards have to be set for 1 turn before activation. So what we're going to do is place one face down on the field. So that goes right next to your deck. That's the bottom row. That's the spell and trap card zone. Next, you look at to see kind of like what low level monsters you have. Because, of course, basic rules, you can only summon level 4 or lower monsters until you have the correct amount to summon level or higher levels. So right now we have Maiden of Macrobee level 4, and Absolute Crusader level 4, and Copycat level 1. Copycat we're going to save because his ability, when this card is summoned, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, that this card's attack and defense becomes that equal to that monster's original attack and defense. So it's kind of like copying your opponent's monster. Let's see what we have for Crusader. Trying to read this through my camera, even though I don't have to. If a level 5 or higher monster is special summoned, tribute this face-up card, destroy that level 5. Okay, so if my opponent special summons a level 5, I can sacrifice this card to destroy it, I guess is what it's saying. Okay, Maiden of Macrobee. Each time a card destroys, if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, place 1 spell counter on it. This spell card the spell counter increases your attack by 200 for each spell counter. So whenever you destroy a monster, this woman right here, this bitchin' woman with her scythe is going to gain 200 attack. So after she destroys her first monster, she's going to go from attack from 17 to 19. Again, it's all a game. So again, this you can either place her in attack or defense. You cannot put her in face-up defense unless it's house rules. Other than that, you can either play her face-up or you can play her face-down in defense mode. Of course, her effectiveness is more in her attack. So we're going to place her face-up on the field. Now again, this video is just basic, so we might not get into like, battling and doing all this other extra stuff, but I just want to get you guys a feel for for how the pace goes, where the cards go. All right, so now that we have nothing going on, we go to main phase 2 or battle, but we cannot attack on our first turn. So we have to go through our battle phase to our main phase 2. Main phase 2 is now over. I'm deciding not to do anything else, which means placing more cards on the field or activating an effect. Next, I'm going to end my turn. And next it goes to my opponent. Now it's the same for me. I will place one card face down. I am going to be perfect for this. So now I'm going to activate a field spell by placing it face up on the field in its respective place. Its effect is when a Harpy Lady is summoned to the field, I can target destroy one spell or trap card on the field, increase the attack and defense of all face-up winged beast monsters by 200 points. Okay, so now I summon Harpy Queen, which means I can destroy a spell or trap card, whether it's my own, which is the catch. If your opponent does not have it, and you mistakenly activate this, and you do not have a spell or trap card that your opponent, that you can destroy, you have to destroy your field spell. So I summoned Harpy Queen, which allows me to destroy your card. So now this goes to the graveyard, face up. Next, just to show as an example, I have the equipped spell Horn of the Unicorn, which when equipped to a monster gains their attack and defense or gives them 700 points. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, it returns to the top of the deck. So I will equip her with this card, which brings her from 1900 to 2600. Now I will have her attack. And hold on. There we go. Okay. We'll do it like that. Sorry. I'm trying to like match it up with here, and it looks off, and it was throwing me off. So now that she's equipped, I can attack your monster because my monster's attack points are higher. Whoever monster's attack points are higher will always win. Unless, of course, you have a trap card to negate attacks or destroy the attacking monster, etc. So right now, I'm going to destroy her. That's 1700, so what do I have, 26? So that's going to be 900 points of damage total, because you're going to subtract. Again, it's all math. So once you subtract that, so that's 600. So whether you're playing with 8,000 or 4,000, you're going to subtract 600 points from your life points. Now to do that, some people use their phones, but I'm using my phone to make the video. You can download life point calculators on apps, or you can use a regular calculator and just set it to 8,000 and just, manually, whatever. But there you go. So that's how you destroy your opponent's monster using a field spell. Gives my winged beast type monster an extra 200 points. So that's 800 points of damage. You gotta always remember, you gotta read all your cards. That's one thing I always tell everybody. Read your cards. Yes, there may be a lot of print. Sometimes it's a lot of print for apparently no goddamn reason. So you'll read it and you'll be like, you could have just said that in a much simpler way. But again, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Some of them are reprints, some of them never got updated language-wise, so some of their language is off. Certain cards, you really have to read them because some of them target specific cards, whether some people thought that it targeted all cards, or some effects only affect things in certain ways because of this or some because of that. So again, I just tell everyone, read your cards. Read every word of your card because they are word for word specific. If you go into a tournament and you're effect is off by one word and you try to use that effect, they're going to be like, dude, what are you doing? And you're going to look like an idiot. Not speaking from experience, I'm just saying in general because I've had people tell me that. Read your cards. So now that I have done all that I could do for right now, I am going to conclude by ending my turn. So again, this is the general format. You have the deck on the bottom right, you have your graveyard above your deck, you have the field spell on the opposite side of your graveyard, and you also have your extra deck, which again, if you had fusion monsters, they would go down here, and then eventually once you were able to use the material monsters together to summon that monster, they would go to the graveyard, and your extra deck or a card from the extra deck would come onto the field. So, again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. This is part 3. This is, again, just basics. We'll keep going. We're going to go into more detail about the pace of the game, different effects, different decks, how they stack up, different abilities, trump cards, more powerful cards, and then eventually we'll get to Synchro Monsters and Xyz Monsters. So, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, may your hearts be your guiding key. Until next time.